He's more than an athlete. He's an artist.
I think you're in love, Ron.
Shut up.
Lecter, I love you. Lecter, I do.
When we're apart, my heart beats only.
Harry Potter!
Hey, my eyes aren't glistening with the ghost of my past.
I'm not an owl.
Technically, it's a fact.
Ah, c'est magnifique. Dragon!
Kill the stag.
I'm on a Barty Crouch!
Behaving like a babbling, bumbling band of baboons.
Junior.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for listening to Retold. Just want to hop on here real quick before the episode officially starts and say two things. One, we had some connection issues with the internet during the recording of this episode, so I actually lost the first 10 seconds of the episode. All you missed there is me just coming on and saying, "Hi, everybody. Welcome to Retold." So I thought I'd do that here. The other thing is that because we had some connection issues, my guest's audio, Stephanie, isn't as high quality as it normally is. And that's not her fault at all. That's just an internet thing that happens sometimes. But good news, my audio still comes through just fine. And she is still an amazing guest. And I think you guys are really going to like this episode. I hope to have her back in the future. But yeah, enjoy the episode. You will pick up with me saying the chapter numbers right here. Today, we are covering chapters 3 and 4 of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. We've finished up our coverage of season 3, or book 3, and we're just starting book 4. Last week, you got to listen to episode 1 of this with me and my wife covering chapters 1 and 2. And now here we are today, chapters 3 and 4 with Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
Now, the people might know you under a different name,
Yes.
at least what I see on Instagram, Stephanie's Pensieve. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Very cool. And so, Stephanie, we're super excited to have you on this podcast. It's your first time being on this show. And the first time I ever have a guest on, I asked them for their fandom ID, which is this concept that I got from a MuggleCast podcast. But it's essentially, what is your Hogwarts house? What is your favorite Harry Potter book, your favorite Harry Potter movie, and how'd you get into Harry Potter? So take it away.
I am a Gryffindor, sorted on Pottermore, for those of you that remember Pottermore way back in the day. So ignore my Malfoy shirt. Diehard Gryffindor through and through. My favorite book is Goblet of Fire, so I'm super excited to be doing this one today. Favorite movie is Prisoner of Azkaban because it is a cinematic masterpiece. And what was the other question?
How did you get into Harry Potter?
Well, so the first book came out when I was 7. So I read that with my stepmom. So from that point forward, I waited for each book release and then into the later years, each movie release. And so Harry Potter's been a part of my life for almost 30 years without giving my age away.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember when the final movie came out, I went to go see it with my older sister, and she is 33, I think. And when it ended, she looks at me and she goes, "Well, that's officially the end of my childhood."
Yeah.
'Cause she grew
Yeah.
up with Harry too, you know.
It hits different. Yeah. So now, like hitting these 20-year anniversary milestones, it's like, wow.
I
Not
know,
only
every
is that
single year.
amazing, but I feel old.
Yeah, every year I keep seeing it's the 20th anniversary of this thing now. It's the 20th
I
anniversary
know.
of this thing. I
Yeah.
kind of feel like it's cheating. Like it's just another reason to celebrate each some or advertise something, but
Yeah.
I'm here for it. I love a good
I am too.
Potter celebration.
Yes.
Great choice for favorite book. That's my favorite book. And so the other thing I wanted to ask you about was your Instagram. So you are, I'm becoming a little new to these terms, or a little more familiar with these terms, but Pottergram is what I've
Yeah.
been told that it's called. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do on social media?
So I started my platform 4 years ago, I think, and I did it initially as kind of like a scrapbook of sorts. That's where the term pensieve came into my username. It's like I wanted just to dump all my Harry Potter memories onto like one page.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what initially started the idea of having the social media is like, I love Harry Potter. I wanted to share my travels, my collection, all of that. So that's why I started. And now years later, having met so many people from around the world, I'm friends with so many people from around the world. It's truly just a fantastic community. Literally just the place that I can go to be creative and to share what I would say is my biggest fandom love.
Yeah. And I love your posts. They're very good. And I just love people sharing their love for the things they enjoy. And so,
Mhm.
and that's one of the goals of this podcast is why do I want to talk about Harry Potter? Well, because I love it. I just want to share my love with it. I enjoy one of the things I hate the most is like hate watching or hate reading. And when people make podcasts or YouTube videos about things they dislike, I don't enjoy that content. I'd rather watch somebody or listen to somebody talk about something they love. And so it's thank you for sharing your love for this series with
Yeah.
all of us. So listeners, check out Stephanie's Instagram, Stephanie's Pensieve. Is that correct? Stephanie's Pensieve.
That's correct.
Very good. And we'll have a link to that in the show notes. So listeners, you can check that out. But now, Stephanie, we're moving on to our Quizzitch section.
Okay.
So listeners, if you're new here, this is the part of the show where we have a bit of Harry Potter trivia. Every season, I am in competition with my guest hosts. It's me representing myself, my guest hosts representing the world to see who knows more about the Harry Potter books, me or the world. In book 1, I managed to pull out the victory. Books 2 and 3, I lost very sadly. So we're on the comeback trail. We're hoping to tie things up this time around. Luckily, Goblet of Fire is my favorite book. I think we can make it happen. But I will have my guest ask me 2 questions. I ask them 2 questions. The score currently, as it stands, is 2-1. I am leading just by 1 point after the first episode with my wife. She did very good. She got one of the bonus questions correct, but bonus questions don't count for nothing, listeners. Sorry. You guys are losing to me. But Stephanie, what is your first question?
So I saw that you were a quiz whiz, if you will. So I'm trying to stump you.
Thank you.
Okay. So what animal did they say Dudley had reached the size and weight of?
A killer whale.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's
Yeah.
go. That's correct, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. All right. So your question. Let's see. What article of clothing did the Smeltings teachers say they didn't have any that fit Dudley anymore?
His knickers, right?
Yeah, the Knickerbockers.
The knickerbocker. Is that underwear?
I think so. I think
I
it's
don't-
boxers. I think it's boxers. I think
Yeah.
perhaps it's more appropriate to say ladies wear knickers and boys wear knickerbockers.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm faux British, I guess. But your second question. So it's 1-1. What's your second one for me?
See, I feel like this one's too easy for you. Okay. What does Mr. Weasley tell Uncle Vernon that he collects?
He collects plugs.
That's a 2-part answer,
Oh,
my
it's a
friend.
2-part. Plugs and wires? No? What's the answer?
Batteries.
Oh, no. Okay. So I'm going to give myself a half a point, listeners.
Okay.
0.5. We do half points
Half a
on this
point.
show.
Okay.
So 0.5.
half a point.
And your next question, let's see. What does Petunia serve for breakfast?
Grapefruit.
Grapefruit is correct. Ding, ding, ding. Good job.
Hey, grapefruit. That's why I remember it. Because I'm like, that's like horrible breakfast.
I remember it because Dudley just kept trying to steal it from everybody. And I just
Yeah.
thought, what a wild thing to want to steal from people.
I know,
Just want more
grapefruit. So sour.
Here would have been your bonus question. So just for funsies, because my listeners
Yeah.
love questions. What time did the Weasleys say that they would show up?
5 p.m.
5 p.m. is correct. Okay. And then the other one was, who sent Harry birthday cakes? Can you name all the individuals?
It was Ron or Mrs. Weasley, I guess, technically. Sirius and Hermione, right?
That's correct. There's one more.
Oh, Hagrid?
Hagrid is correct. Okay. Man, call me a quiz whiz and you just aced all the bonus ones. All right, listeners. So there you have it. The guests started to crawl back a little bit. All right. The
Yeah.
world's coming back some. You guys still aren't ahead yet, though. All right. Stay humble. But it's also it's only the second episode of season 2. But so the
Clearly.
score after this one is, I guess it's 3.5 to 3. 3.5 to 3. Listeners are that much closer. Your question last week, though, listeners, just because I always ask an audience Quizzitch question so they can write in. The question last week was, how old was Frank, the gardener, when he died? The guy that worked at the Riddle House, how old was he when he died? This was somewhat of a trick question, listeners, because it said he was almost 77, which meant he was 76. That is how old Frank was when he died. So if you got that right, congratulations. If you got it wrong, better luck next time. Next time being right now. Your question for this week is, what do the Dursleys have for lunch the day that Harry is picked up by the Weasleys? What do the Dursleys have for lunch that day? If you know the answer to that question, you can write into theretoldpodcast@gmail.com or message me on Instagram at theretoldpodcast. Stephanie, do you know the answer?
I do.
Very good. My goodness. See,
So gross.
I'm impressed. Okay, next time, if you are ever a returning guest, then I will make sure to make the questions that much harder for you because you just aced this all. Very good. So without further ado, listeners, we're moving on now to our chapter coverage. So the way this works, again, if you're new here, joining us at the beginning of season 4, is every episode after our Quizzitch, I will recap what happens in the chapter, sort of give hopefully a fun and entertaining take on it. And Stephanie, as my guest host, is free to interrupt me as much as she wants. She's not being rude if she does so. She's doing what I asked her. And if she doesn't, that's fine too. I'll either ramble a lot or whatever. And then at the end of each chapter coverage, I have a few bonus segments called our favorite lines, where we'll highlight just what it sounds like, our favorite lines of the chapter. And then we will have our Transfiguration section, which is differences that the movies made from the books, and then a Golden Snitch section, which are little lore drops, behind the scenes things about the chapter that the average fan might not know. We'll do it all again for the next chapter, and then at the very end of the episode, we will have our restricted section, or as I call it for this book, the graveyard. And so that is for all spoiler stuff. We try to avoid spoilers as much as possible during our chapter coverages. So if you are new to the series, fear not. All right. You do not need to go to that perilous graveyard. You can just exit out at the end of our chapter coverage. But without further ado, Stephanie, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Okay. So, actually, I did. Listeners, I'm so sorry. So Stephanie, like we said, she has an Instagram. She posts a lot of cool Harry Potter stuff. At the time of this recording, yesterday, I wanted to ask you about something I saw on your page yesterday. You went to a Harry Potter pop-up bar.
I did.
Correct? How
Yes.
was that? Was that fun?
It was amazing. Yeah. It was
I saw
so
you
fun.
holding like a giant boot.
Yes. That was their booter beer.
Oh, that's
It
clever.
was like a caramelly butterscotch type soda. I have no idea if it was actually cream soda with just additives, but it tasted so good. It was delicious.
Very cool. And then the other one I wanted to ask was, you got a new Harry Potter tattoo, correct?
I did.
I enjoyed you like put up a little competition of people guessing what it could have been. And it was a Harry Potter related tattoo, correct?
Always.
And what tattoo did you get this time around?
The Howler.
The Howler. Very
Yes.
cool. Yeah. How many Harry Potter tattoos do you have?
I think I'm up to 18.
And still going? Still counting?
I'm running out of real estate, but yes, I'm trying.
You said, and your husband has a bunch of Potter tattoos
He-
as well.
He does. Yeah. He's a big Dobby fan. So he's got Dobby on his bicep. And then he's got the Golden Snitch, the Firebolt, the Slytherin locket wand. Have you seen that one from Harry Potter
Slytherin
shop?
Locket wand. No, I haven't.
Yeah, so it's like the locket, that the Horcrux locket, but it's made like the handle's the wand.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so he's got that and Picket and the Marauders map, Mischief Managed as well.
What is your favorite of the ones you have?
Oh, that's really hard. I'm gonna have to say Hagrid's umbrella, because when they announced that Robbie Coltrane had passed away, I got that tattoo immediately, like to commemorate him because he's such a gentle giant. So probably that one.
I won't always be here, but Hagrid will be.
I know.
Oh,
That's
when he dropped
so
that line.
gut-wrenching. I know, because he died like a year later.
Yeah.
So that was so sad. Yeah.
Well, very cool. Thank you for sharing your tattoos with us. I appreciate that. Listeners, sorry to derail for a second, but back to the podcast. So chapter 3, it's called The Invitation. So Harry heads on down to breakfast that morning, and we're told all about Dudley's new diet. Apparently, the school teachers from Dudley's school, Smelting, wrote home to Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia, and they said, "Dang it, y'all, this boy's getting too big." And I had 2 thoughts on this. One, did the teachers ever write home to your parents, Stephanie, for
No,
behavioral
I was
concerns or anything? Not
no, I was
once?
your no, I was your goody two shoes 4.0 nose in a book. I was literally Hermione. I didn't break rules.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had one incident where it was a shame because all of middle school, I was a very misbehaving child. I got in trouble a lot. I even got suspended one time. And at my little private Christian school, big no-no. But I turned a new leaf. All right. I started behaving. And freshman year, I was killing it. I was being a very good boy. There was one day I left every Wednesday we had chapel and we had to wear a blazer for chapel. And I forgot it at home. Other students had forgotten their blazers before. It never seemed like a big deal, but I got in-school suspension for this. I think the teacher was just upset that day, this particular teacher. And she sent an email to my parents saying, perhaps if he learned more discipline at home, this wouldn't be an issue. And my parents were none too pleased about said email because 9 times out of 10, my parents were the kind that would take the teacher's side to say, of course, the teacher's going to be more trustworthy and than you trying to get out of trouble. This was not one of those occasions. And so that's what this made me think of, though, of people writing to the parents. Because just like that, the Dursleys protested what the teacher said. Although in my case, my parents were right too, listeners. I was a good boy that year. Anyway, moving on. The other thought that I have is that Smeltings, it's kind of a strict boarding school. And I would have thought that they would have done something because they write to the Dursleys saying, hey, you need to clean up his diet. But I would have thought, like, it's a boarding school. They're there all year round. They're probably in somewhat control of his diet, that they would have done something.
That's a good
Guess
point.
not. Guess
That's
not.
a really good point. Yeah.
But as much as Petunia tried to disagree, they couldn't. So it's grapefruit for breakfast, y'all, cut up into little bitty quarters. And I loved Dudley eyeing everybody's grapefruit. Just as soon as Vernon gets up from the table, him jumping and grabbing it as quick as possible. I was wondering, like, is that even enough though? Like
It cannot be. A quarter of a grapefruit is probably not even 5 calories. It's a water-based fruit. Like how that's not substantial.
I mean, I usually skip breakfast these days, but even still, it's too little, too little. He will starve. Poor Dudley. Uncle Vernon goes to answer the door, and Dudley, like we said, steals his grapefruit. And when Vernon comes back, he is not happy with Harry and tells him to get into the living room. And I love this. The early chapters of these books with the Dursleys are some of my favorites every time because it is Harry at his most sassy. He's around people that he hates. So he's like, I think he's always firing. He's always ready to just smart off whenever he's around them. So I wrote down on page 29, which one did I like the most? Oh, this one here. Harry would have dearly loved to have said, "So what?" But he didn't feel that Uncle Vernon's temper should be tested this early in the morning, especially when it was already under severe strain from lack of food. And so I love the little just clever thoughts in his head.
Yeah.
The best one ever, and a slight spoiler, is in book 5 when he's questioned about watching the news every day. And he goes, well,
It changes every
it
day.
changes every day. That's why I watch it every day. He's so clever. And I love his thought process when he's with the Dursleys. But anyway, deja vu, Uncle Vernon is mad that Harry gets a letter. And who's it from? It's from Mrs. Weasley. And kind man that Uncle Vernon is, all right, really polite, he reads the letter for Harry. All right, he reads it aloud. And it's just Molly asking if Harry can join them. This Monday night, Ireland and Bulgaria face off for the Quidditch World Cup. Excuse me. They got an extra ticket, is what she was really trying to say. And she would just be delighted if Harry would join them. So I hope I didn't alarm you with my little WWE intro.
No, you should totally be the commentator.
I love the conversation that follows, with all of Harry's snark and him realizing like Vernon's 2 great desires are in conflict here. He, on one hand, he wants Harry to be unhappy, but also he wants Harry out of the house. So it's tough fight for him to go through. One of the things he mentions, it says that he he looks at the letter and he complains about the stamps. And he said that the postman asked about who sent the letter and was a little bit curious. And this is a nightmare for the Dursleys because they don't want anybody asking these kinds of questions about Harry. But I also had the thought of how crazy would it be if like your Amazon driver, when delivering your packages, was like, so what'd you get? Why'd you get? Like, just being a little inquisitive. That would be a nightmare. My goodness. The dumpy line throws me off every time.
I know, dumpy sort of woman. Like, it's so rude. Like, have you looked in a mirror?
And that's what Harry says. So, listeners, at this point in the chapter, Uncle Vernon is trying to remember who Molly Weasley is. And Harry, reminds him, you saw her at the train station. And Uncle Vernon, he screws up his face. He's thinking and he goes, dumpy sort of woman. And again, Harry's inner monologue of, that's rich coming from you. And says the line about Dudley saying like, and you also have a son who's about to do what he's threatened to do since he was a kid, be as long as he is tall. Dang, Harry, calm down. The broomstick moment. Okay, let me see if I can pull this up in my notes. This one was funny to me. So he's asking questions about Quidditch. And he says, Quidditch, he muttered under his breath. Quidditch, what is this rubbish? Harry felt a second stab of annoyance. It's a sport, he said shortly, played on broom. All right, said Uncle Vernon loudly. And so he gets all upset about it. It's just, again, the strong illusions of these racist vibes of, no, none of that in my house. All right, get that away. A little too much for awful Uncle Vernon. Also, some of the things that I kind of have missed before. Now that I'm podcasting through the books, I look at it a little more in depth than I normally would have. But it mentions that Harry, the clothes that he's wearing are like, I know that they're too big for him, and they've always been described as too big for him. But it's just was a little more real to me as I was underlining it and making notes. But it says the sweater he's wearing, the sleeves are rolled back 5 times at the wrist. And it goes past his knees on the baggy jeans. And I also had a fun time trying to picture, like, Daniel Radcliffe, when he talks about playing this role, he says, Harry wasn't cool, so I never felt cool. But I don't know, I kind of like watching the movies. To me, Harry's kind of cool.
I kind of disagree with that.
Yeah. And it was hard for me to envision Daniel Radcliffe walking around at the beginning of Goblet of Fire with a sweater that went past his knees and baggy jeans. And I thought that would have been a funny look. Wonder if they'll do it.
I kind of wish they had done that though. Because like they show, like, especially in Sorcerer's Stone, they show the bagginess of the clothes that he's wearing, but they don't continue to as he gets older. Like, I wish they had continued that pattern because his clothes never technically fit him properly.
Yeah. And I think
like little details,
Yeah. What would have been interesting about it was like, because, in my perspective, and it seems like from yours as well, as he gets older, Harry does seem kind of like a cool character, very well put together. It would have been interesting to see like that sharp contrast of how much like a clown or a loser he's treated at home. And then he goes off to Hogwarts and, he's the famous kid. So that I think that would have made that contrast even sharper.
I agree.
Probably the reason they didn't do it was, if I'm just spitballing, is like maybe tonal difference, like tonal whiplash of super silly look at the beginning of the movie. And then
he's in his robes and tie. And
perhaps.
But that also still offers that contrast though, because he wasn't treated fairly. So like his at-home life is vastly different from his school life.
And the wizarding world is silly. All right. We can do this. We can be silly. Anyway, but finally, when it doesn't seem like Vernon will let him go, Harry pulls out the big guns and he's like, fine, I won't go. I guess I just need to go tell my godfather, my murderous godfather, about this. He likes to check up on me. And this Uncle Vernon sort of changes his tune whenever he hears this. And I love this. He's like, did I say you couldn't go? No, you must have misunderstood. No, you can go. And make sure that you write your godfather, you tell him we said that you could go. All right. You make sure you tell him that. All right. So I enjoyed that. The other really funny moment of this chapter is when Harry walks out of the room, trolls Dudley right away, looks at him, what a wonderful breakfast, and right on up the stairs. So my next note, it says here, more racist Hedwig. And so something that came up in the previous chapter, Stephanie, is that my wife and I joked around about how like racist Hedwig seems, in that when the two birds from the tropics show up, he does not want anything to do with them. He's like, how dare they drink out of, or she, it's like, how dare they drink out of my water bowl? And she's trying to scoot away. And so it happens again. So either Hedwig is racist towards other owls or just doesn't like other animals in general. But she, we get up to the room and Harry enters and he sees this little bitty baby, a little tiny owl flying around, all hooting, all happy, named Pig. That's right. And Hedwig's not happy about this at all. She looks like affronted by this little pig's hoots and hollers. But the owl is carrying a letter from Ron. And I love Harry's double take whenever it says pig, because he's like, I've never seen anything look less like a pig in my life. But basically, the letter is Ron tells Harry that they are coming to get him at 5 o'clock on Sunday, one way or another. You know, whether they say yes or whether they say no, we're going to be there. And then is Ron, I liked Ron's letter. This was something that stood out to me. If I was Ron, I would have been furious at how short of a response Harry sent back. You know, because we look at our text messages sometimes and you'll see if you ever send a big old blurb and somebody just replies with one sentence or K. Yeah. It's like, and that's essentially like very similar to what happens here, because Ron leaves a huge note and then Harry leaves, I think, 2 sentences of, no worries, I'll be there. And that's about it. Oh, well, he's the chosen one. He can do that. And then I also have my next note is Hedwig, I'll show you how it's done. Because after he sends Pig off, looks at Hedwig, can I send a letter with you? And Hedwig, almost like at attention, just saluting. That's right. Standing, said she stood even more still to just like show off how it's supposed to be done by a good owl. And the ending of this chapter is just a lovely childhood dream, because he rips open the loose floorboard, grabs a piece of cake, and the vibe is like, oh, to be a young teen in the summer, eating cake on the floor of your room, knowing you're about to go to a super awesome event. We're about to go to the Eras tour, y'all, and spend time with the friends. And then my final note was like, who even cares about Satan? Because at the final line of the chapter was like, Harry couldn't worry about anything right now, not even Lord Voldemort.
Yeah, the end of that chapter made me laugh, because it's like, you know, you can give Harry his 30 seconds of bliss, but it's like, it's just going to go downhill.
I know. So many of these moments with Harry, like, I cherish, but they are slightly tinted because it's, oh, you poor ignorant boy, you don't even know. But that's the end of the chapter. Yay! So now moving on, listeners, to our favorite lines. So I'm a big fan of one-liners, like highlighting these things. Stephanie, let's bounce back and forth talking about which ones we liked the most. I'll say one of mine first. So on my notes, I think I have a bunch for this chapter. I even messaged you yesterday and was like, this chapter's really funny. So my first one, the school nurse had seen what Aunt Petunia's eyes, so sharp when it came to spotting fingerprints on her gleaming walls and in observing the comings and goings of the neighbors, simply refused to see. And far from needing extra nourishment, Dudley had reached roughly the size and weight of a young killer whale. So we highlighted the killer whale thing before, but what I like the most about that particular line is the first half of it, of like highlighting how a problem that we all have, of there are certain things that we are blind to. You know, it's funny, you know, the term hypocrite is thrown around a lot, but I think in many ways, all of us are hypocrites. You know, there's all things that we do and don't do, but this is one of those moments where Petunia, who is one of the most observant individuals, she's blind when it comes to her ickle duddykins. So that's my first favorite line.
I think that's pretty standard from a parent's perspective, though. Like you're gonna have blinders on at some point with your children, and you'll figure that out soon too.
Yeah, that's actually something to ask you is, so like when I'm out in public with my friends, and this will be brought up a little bit in the next chapter, but if we're meeting new people I'm immediately aware of like my friends' idiosyncrasies and things that might come off as weird, and
Yes.
I'm kind of conscious of that. Does like so in a way, yes, there's things you're more blind to, but there's also things you're more critical of about your friends. Uh,
Mhm.
is it like that with kids too, though? Like when it's your
Yes.
kid, you
Are
know?
you kidding me? Yes, my son, he is so weird, and he shows it the most when we're with somebody else.
Mm.
Like, we had dinner with one of my childhood best friends last week, and Colton was just he was hyper, he was excited, but he was doing some really weird things, and I'm just sitting there like, "That's my child."
You
Like,
don't show
why
your
is he
weird around
so
others.
awkward?
Keep that
Yeah.
to just us, all right?
Yeah,
Not meant
well,
for
and I
others'
told
eyes.
him I know, I was like, "Dude, you're so weird." And he goes, "Well, mom, so are you." And I'm like, "Valid."
He's
Like,
like,
you know
what tattoo did you just get?
Yeah,
What are you spending
yeah.
adult money on right now?
I mean, you know what? That's why I have adult money.
That's right. That's right. That's funny. So yeah, good call out.
Yeah.
What's one of your favorite lines?
Let's see, it's at the beginning of the chapter before yours. It says where they're talking about how Dudley is misunderstood and they don't want a swatty little Nancy boy for a son. And they skated over the accusations of bullying in the report. He's just a boisterous little boy. He wouldn't hurt a fly. It's like,
Oh,
are you kidding me? He is the most aggressive.
he's just a kind little sweetheart. Okay,
Yeah.
he just wants to take
Mm,
care of his cousin Harry and
a
you know
boisterous little boy.
eat some
And then they
grapefruit.
compared him to a whale. So,
Yeah, that's a bit of a contrast there.
yeah, that's a big contrast.
One of
Yeah.
my other favorite lines shortly after that one is they're talking about the diet, and
Mm,
Aunt Petunia, Harry said she seemed to take comfort in the fact that she could treat Harry worse, and so she would even give him smaller amounts of food than Dudley. But the moment he had got wind of the fact that he was expected to survive the summer on carrot sticks, Harry had sent Hedwig to his friends with pleas for help, and they had risen to the occasion magnificently. Hedwig had returned from Hermione's house with a large box stuffed full of sugar-free snacks, and then it goes on to describe what everybody sent. But I love that his friends rose to the occasion magnificently.
yeah.
Um, good stuff. Did you have any more for this chapter?
I like the one where the letter comes from Molly and Uncle Vernon's fussing because the postman thought that the letter seemed funny
Mm-hmm.
and how Harry responded with, well, she did put enough stamps on them. Like, that's just like Harry's wit and his sass that I live for those moments in these books because he's so quick to just be like, well, she did put enough on them. Like,
Yeah, I think well, seems good to me. What's the problem?
like I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Another one of my favorites was, and I kind of said it before, but that was an excellent breakfast, wasn't it? Said Harry. I feel really full, don't you? And I just see him skipping up the stairs afterwards, and the next line, laughing at the astonished look on Dudley's face. Ah.
Yep, gaslighting to the extreme.
I have two more. Did you have any more?
No, because you're hitting on some of the ones that I like
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
I steal them.
Okay.
So this is one of my other ones in the letter from Ron. If they say yes, send Pig back with your answer pronto, and we'll come and get you at 5 o'clock on Sunday. If they say no, send Pig back pronto, and we'll come and get you at 5 o'clock on Sunday anyway. Oh, that's just funny to me. And then I think, no, that was my last one. So yeah, those are all my favorite lines. Those are all our favorite lines, listeners. Hope you enjoyed those. Moving on now to our transfigurations, differences that the movies made from the books. Now, we highlighted this a little bit in the last chapter, but this whole chapter is basically an omission because in the movie, after Harry has the dream about the Riddle House, he wakes up and he's already at the Burrow. But this one, we get this nice little in-between time where Harry's still at the Dursley's house at Privet Drive. Now, the only thing that I could think to mention was that as far as an actual change that we don't get to see at all in the movies is Pigwidgeon. Pig isn't in the movie at all. And so he's not in this movie. I don't even think he's in the others. He
He's not
might.
any of them.
Yeah, I think the only potential that I think I could see him in is maybe like who knows, maybe at the Burrow in movie 5 or 6, he's flying around in the background somewhere. I doubt it. I can't think of it. But that's the just to say that there's no Pigwidgeon in the movie. And so, listeners, that's our whole Transfiguration section because this whole chapter is an omission where they don't
Yeah.
relate this.
Which truly is a shame.
Yeah, I would have.
I mean, I get it. It's kind of like a filler, like it's
Mhm.
fluffy, but it's still like, it would have been fun to see the letter and Uncle Vernon's just rage over the
Mhm.
many stamps on the letter. But
Yeah. So now we're moving on, listeners, to our Golden Snitch section. So these are behind the scenes lore grabs, little tids and bits that the average fan might not know about. And so, typically it'll be stuff like if a wizard on a chocolate frog card is mentioned, who's that wizard? Well, my first Golden Snitch for you today is the Daily Mail because it says at the beginning of the chapter that is the newspaper that Uncle Vernon is reading. And I Googled Daily Mail, and it's a real thing actually out there. But one fun thing to do is to Google, if you want to look up something in the Potter series, is to type in the thing you're looking for and then Harry Potter Wiki. The Daily Mail has its own page on the Harry Potter Wiki. So, the Daily Mail is a Muggle tabloid newspaper that is published daily, and it mentions this stuff that we happened here. But some of the behind the scenes, the Daily Mail is a real world tabloid newspaper founded in 1896 in the United Kingdom's, or it is the United Kingdom's second biggest selling daily newspaper. Another thing, J.K. Rowling has said that she particularly dislikes this British tabloid, which once made references to a stalker she insisted did not exist, and conducted interviews with her estranged ex-husband. As one journalist noted, Harry's Uncle Vernon is a grotesque man of violent tendencies and remarkably little brain. It is not difficult to guess which newspaper Rowling gave him to read. So little biting words there. But another fun thing to mention here, during a scene based on Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in Chapter 1, The Boy Who Lived, in the Harry Potter series, the edition of the Daily Mail used as a prop is a real issue featuring Diana, Princess of Wales, both the prop and the real-world edition featuring the same image and carrying the headline, "The Smile That Says It All." So they used a real newspaper in the first movie. However, there are some differences between them. In reality, the edition was published on November 6th, 1981, whereas in the Potter series, this scene took place on the 1st of November. So 5 days too early, y'all. But yeah, those are your little fun facts about that one. Moving on to our next is the Quidditch World Cup. We get a name drop of the QWC. And so I mentioned it last time. You guys may already know enough about the Quidditch World Cup, but just to say it here, the Quidditch World Cup, also called the World Cup or World Championship, was held every 4 years since 1473. The competition saw Quidditch teams representing countries around the world to compete for the World Cup, while the International Quidditch Tournament was between regional teams. The tournament proper, so the actual World Cup, the way it worked was it was a straight knockout tournament. The 16 qualified countries were ranked according to how many points they obtained in the qualifying rounds. And the team who won the most points played the team who earned the least. The team who earned the second would play the second least, and so forth. This theoretically allowed the two best teams from the qualifying phase to meet in the final. But for the 2014 Quidditch World Cup, Nigeria and Norway were the top-seeded teams and could face each other as early as the semifinals. The last thing, just for fun thing, I wanted to mention here, in the chapter, Molly says that it's been 30 years since Britain hosted the World Cup. However, that math ain't mathin', because 30 years ago, there was no Quidditch World Cup. All right. It's even funny. You look at the Harry Potter wiki, there's a fun little note about that at the bottom of, where is it? 1994 is when this book takes place. Minus 30 equals 1964. But there wasn't a Quidditch World Cup in 1964. So maybe Molly was
is
just rounding.
interesting.
I don't know. So,
Or that could have just been a little blurb
Mhm.
from J.K. Rowling's part, not connecting the years properly.
She goofed. She's not a math person. She's a writing person. All right. Moving on now. I think. Oh, and that I did have Pig as a golden snitch. She's here. I don't know if Pig is a boy or a girl.
I don't know.
But Pig is
I
mentioned.
would say boy. I don't know.
Yeah, Pig is mentioned more in the next chapter. We'll get Pig's full name and But just know it is if you don't remember, listeners, Pig is the owl that Sirius gave to Ron on the train back from school at the end of last book. So there's your little teaser for, I guess, next week's chapters. But that's all we got for this chapter on Golden Snitches. So moving on now to chapter 4, Back to the Burrow. So it's the next day, and Harry is ready to go early. He's loaded up all his stuff. He's got his cloak, his firebolt, his Marauder's map. He wouldn't need a map if he just tattooed it on himself like your husband.
you
All right. Could you imagine if you if you could do that to a parchment, you could probably do that to your skin.
Yeah.
You know, if like Cassidy sees little footprints, mobile tattoos. They got moving
There we go.
pictures. They could have moving tattoos, I'm sure.
That'd be fun.
Well, to be fair, the Death Eater tail does.
It does move. Yeah.
We're getting a little dark there, listeners. Spoilers for later. Oh, shoot. Okay, so he even emptied out all the food. And I had a question because in last chapter it said he had 2 cakes left and now the cakes are gone. In 24 hours, did he eat 2 whole cakes? Is that what he did? Just sat there kicking his feet on the floor, thinking about going to the Quidditch World Cup?
I mean, maybe if he's surviving on grapefruit quarters and cottage cheese and, shaved celery.
I'm sure it's
He might have.
very rich food, though. I can only have 1.5 crumble cookies in one sitting. I can't.
And a half. Oh, that's
More than most people.
that is ambitious.
But it's so good, listeners. I wonder if they have crumble overseas. I don't know. Listeners, write into the Retold Podcast at gmail.com. Let me know. Anyway, it's a tense situation at Privet Drive when he goes downstairs. Vernon is like, those Weasleys better dress like normal people. And I like how Harry, in his thought process, is just like, oof, I don't see that happening. And Harry is super relatable before the meeting. So I took a note of this. We mentioned it earlier. Let me read this little blurb. Harry felt a slight sense of foreboding. He had rarely seen Mr. or Mrs. Weasley wearing anything that Dursleys would call normal. Their children might don Muggle clothing during the holidays, but Mr. and Mrs. Weasley usually wore long robes in varying states of shabbiness. Harry wasn't bothered about what the neighbors would think, but he was anxious about how rude the Dursleys might be to the Weasleys if they turned up looking like their worst idea of wizards. And so the reason this was so relatable to me, listeners, is, and Stephanie, you might have felt this feeling before, but when you introduce 2 groups of friends in your life who don't know each other, and it's like, I know what bothers these people, I know what bothers these people, and I know what each group likes to do. And you kind of just think of all the ways to avoid catastrophe when these 2 different groups of friends start to meet. It's like I have in my personal life, I have I'm a pastor and I have my church group, but I also have my gym group, and my gym friends are very different than my church friends. And so when they meet one another, I'm like, oof, this is going crazy over here.
Go badly.
So,
Yeah, it's always interesting. That's why I try to find friends that all have similar interests, or at least can appreciate the other's interests, because I don't do awkward very well. So those differences can sometimes just be dreadful to experience.
Dudley's walk is funny to me. He's waddling around the house, covering up his booty because he's having a traumatic flash. He's got PTSD from Hagrid. 5 o'clock rolls around, and the Weasleys are still not there. Oh no! Uncle Vernon's talking some mad smack about these tardy Weasleys. I'm feeling bad for Harry. I will say, Vernon is right, but it is one of those occasions where it's like, you of all people shouldn't talk, though, because it is rude to not, especially when you can instantaneously show up. All right. That's another lesson I've had to learn, of respecting people's time, showing up punctually. So Vernon's right to be a little frustrated, but also pot calling kettle black, I believe here. Anyway, right in the middle of his little smack talk session, but bam, the Weasleys appear. Sort of. They are stuck in the boarded up fireplace. So the Weasleys have connected the Dursley house to the Flu network, which means they can travel through their fireplace. But Uncle Vernon has boarded up the fireplace and now uses an electric one. So they are stuck literally behind the wall. Silly Weasleys. It's a funny scene. They all start showing up one by one. I love the moments of, don't tell George to show up. Boom, George shows up. Don't tell Ron. And then boom. I enjoy that scene. It's always one of the ones I think of whenever I think of Goblet of Fire. And it's also really funny when Mr. Weasley has his switch up because he's furious. He's stuck behind there and Harry goes over. Yeah, they boarded up their fireplace. And he goes, well, that's silly. Why would they do that? And then Harry goes, well, they have an electric fireplace. And he goes, oh, do they really? With a plug? Yeah. I always hear Jim Dale's voice, a plug.
Yes.
But Mr. Weasley, he says, nothing for it. And he just, bam, explodes the wall, shoots dust everywhere. I feel bad when it's all over. Poor Vernon's nicest suit. Who cares though? It's Vernon. Anyway, it's like, one of these things I think about is like in a vacuum, so many of these things, yes, the Dursleys have a right to be mad about. And it was a bit, Stephanie, in my first 2 seasons that when I was reading about the Dursleys, I found Vernon very, very funny. And a lot of people were like, do you like Vernon? I was like, as a character, he's very enjoyable, not as a person. But
so funny.
So in a vacuum, some of these things are understandable. It's like, yes, Uncle Vernon, you could be upset. But also,
I mean, I would be upset too if my fireplace got blown apart, but
if you abuse children, I think it's okay if we
there is
so they bust open the fireplace. Vernon, I wrote down, like a boss catches Petunia. Okay. I said It's made me think of a K-drama scene before she hits the floor, just catches her. The K-pop plays in the background.
Yes.
Vernon does not shake Arthur's hand, though. Fred and George go to get Harry's suitcase. Arthur fails at some small talk. I wrote down, I love that moment. So what moment did I love, Barry? Going to that page. Well, said Mr. Weasley, swinging his arm slightly while he tried to find words to break the very nasty silence. Very nice place you've got here. As the usually spotless living room was now covered in dust and bits of brick, this remark didn't go down too well with the Dursleys. I love that. It's very nice. I know I just destroyed it, but I bet it looked nice before I showed up. That's what he could have said.
That would have been the boss move.
I'm sure this place looked great once upon a time. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine saying that to an old person? I bet when you were young, you were probably really pretty.
Oh no.
You used to rock the house, I'm sure. Anyway, Dudley walks into the room just holding his booty. He hides behind his parents, tries to anyway. Harry makes that note of, Vernon was big enough to hide Petunia, not him. Finally, Fred and George come back in with Harry's suitcase. Mr. Weasley is like, finally, and he starts a fire, and he's about to send Fred back via the Flu Network. But when, oh no, Fred drops some of his toffees, and he's all like, my bad. I didn't mean to do that. It couldn't have been me. Anyway, bye, and he rolls on out. Then then George goes, then Ron, and Harry is about to go. He says goodbye to the Dursleys when Mr. Weasley stops him. And I love this. All right, this is a great Papa Weasley moment. He turns to the Dursleys and he's like, hey, y'all got something to say? All right, cat got your tongue? I blew up the freaking wall, not your brains. All right, Harry tries to protest, but Mr. Weasley's like, nah, they need to learn some manners. And they do eventually somewhat. Mr. Dursley's like, nice guy that he is. Okay, he's capable of change, listeners. He says goodbye to Harry. He's very sweet, that Mr. Dursley. Just as Harry's about to leave, though, all heck breaks loose behind him because apparently Dudley tried to eat a toffee. Mr. Weasley tries to explain. Poor guy, saying like, I can fix it. And he says he walks towards him with a wand. Not a good move. It's just not going to end well. And I like this. Petunia pulls a Lily Potter. Okay, she jumps on Dudley, shielding him from Vernon. Petunia is just as loving of a mom as Lily was to Harry.
Yes, that's the exact same.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Same thing. Voldemort versus Mr. Weasley. It's the exact same. Both as menacing. Vernon throws ornaments, and he tells Mr. Weasley tells Harry, just get out of here, just go on and go. So Harry leaves, and that's the end of the chapter. Yay! I did think it was funny how chapter 1, near the end of it, we get the mention of Nagini talking about a big old python. And then similarly, this chapter ends with a reference to a python.
Yeah, Dudley tongue.
Yeah, what is the phrasing for it? A great slimy python talking about his tongue. Disgusting.
Ugh.
Moving on now, though, to our favorite lines. I don't have as many for this chapter, but I think I got
I
two or
don't
three.
either.
You first, though, Stephanie. Take it away.
So the one that I wrote down was Mr. Weasley to the Dudleys. Surely you're going to say goodbye. Like
Yeah.
he's completely like he's just caught off guard. Like, why aren't you saying goodbye to Harry? Like, don't you care? No, they don't care.
Yeah, and I like with my students at church, some of them, like in the Christian religion, we talk about God being a father, and some of my students, unfortunately, have bad home situations, and so when you mention God as a father, that can trigger not good memories for them and not good feelings, and so what you want to do is replace that with like good father images, good father figures in their life, and I love in the same way Harry, whose father figure is Vernon for most of his life, at this point now has positive father figures in his life. He's writing to Sirius early on, and even now with Mr. Weasley, not just being a safe place for him, but also standing up for him as well. I really enjoy that about Mr. Weasley, because I think Mr. Weasley, it seems, is the only person so far that's thrown hands on account of the kids. Because, in book 2, he even, shoot, you want to insult these boys? Let's go. And he gets in a fight for their sake. So I love that. Love that. One of my favorite lines, I really enjoyed when Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon are ticked off about the Weasleys being late. No consideration at all. We might have had an engagement. Maybe they think they'll get invited to dinner if they're late. Well, they most certainly won't be. I just love their inner monologue. I really don't think that is their motivation, Uncle Vernon. I think it's just the Weasleys having a ton of kids and being scatterbrained.
Yeah.
I had, I think, 2 more. Did you have any more?
I didn't. No, I mean, I love all the dialogue with the Weasleys when they're stuck in the fireplace, like Fred and George's sarcasm coming out. But no, I didn't have many.
That's all right. I think I already said, okay, so I really only have one more because I said one of mine during the chapter, Mr. Weasley trying to make small talk. But then my other one, Uncle Vernon's face worked furiously. The idea of being taught consideration by a man who had just blasted away half his living room wall seemed to be causing him intense suffering. Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
And those are all my favorite lines. So now moving on to our transfigurations. Again, differences that the movies made from the books. And again, listeners, we don't have that many. But I'll say a few. One, oh, wait a minute. Was this actually from the last chapter? Shoot, hold on. Let me see if it's in the letter. Oh, the letter was from the last chapter. Listeners, guess what? You get a bonus one from last chapter. But it's that, because again, none of this, it's all omitted in the movie. So we don't get to see any, like Dudley's tongue swelling up, this incident with the fireplace. Harry's already at the Dursleys. But one more transfiguration from the previous chapter was that Ron says Hermione is going to get to the Burrow before Harry, going to get there, I think, that night. But in the movie, she shows up after, because whenever Hermione wakes up Ron and Harry from their sleep, they're surprised to see her. And Harry goes like, when did you get here? And she goes, I only just arrived. So in the movie, Hermione shows up after Harry does. And Ron doesn't know how, because he's like flummoxed. I love that moment where he pulls up the covers. Bloody hell. It's a very funny moment. But that's all we got for Transfiguration, listeners. So sorry on this chapter, but I didn't write the book. Anyway, moving on to our Golden Snitches. Behind the scenes lores, tids, and bits. So the first one we have is the flu regulation panel. So Arthur makes mention of this during the chapter, but the flu regulation panel was a committee that was possibly within or a predecessor to the Flue Network Authority, in charge of connecting fireplaces to the Flue network and maintaining those connections. The Flue network controlled which fireplaces were connected. It was against regulations for a Muggle fireplace to be connected to the Flue network, although, as is mentioned in this chapter, Arthur was able to make it happen. And a simple spell was all that was needed to disconnect a fireplace from the network. So you got to jump through a lot of hoops to get one installed, but it's just as simple as a little spell to get it taken care of. Moving on to our next golden snitch, the engorgement charm. So Mr. Weasley in this chapter says that on the toffee, that's all that happened, was that Fred and George probably placed an engorgement charm on the toffee. So the engorgement charm, cast with the spell Engorgio, also known as the growing charm. There's a hand movement for it. All right, I'm going to do it. It's almost like an upside down light bulb. Audio listeners didn't see it, but we are now on YouTube, people. So you will, if you're watching the video, you'll see that it's like a light bulb. But it was the counter charm for the shrinking charm, which caused shrunken objects to return. This caused shrunken objects to return their original size. If the caster attempted to engorge the target beyond a certain point, it would violently explode. So that might have happened to Dudley's tongue. Although the spell was safe to use on animals, its use was not recommended until the counter charm had been perfected, which is a good idea. If you can't put it back, all right, don't take it off the shelf.
Right. But then why can you use it on animals? That's weird.
Don't know. Per Gamp's law of elemental transfiguration, the spell could be used to increase the amount of food or drink available to someone. However, doing this in a paying establishment was frowned upon. In particular, Rosmerta permanently banned anyone who performed this spell on one of her butterbeers from the Three Broomsticks Inn. That's smart. That's smart. You just run. You know what? Actually, this makes me mad. All right, because in America we have free refills. We do free refills on drinks. We are pro engorgement charm here in America. Yep. Dang it, Britain. A variation of this spell was Engorgio Scolus, which made the head of a person bigger. Have you played the Lego Harry Potter games?
Haven't.
So this is one of the little bonus spells you can get. And essentially, when you cast it at one of the other Legos, it turns their head like bigger than the body of the Lego, and they fall down, and their head is stuck on the ground, and their arms flail for about 5 seconds before it shrinks back to normal. It's really funny. Listeners, check that out. And yeah, Miranda Goshawk included this charm in the Standard Book of Spells Grade 2. It was the third spell in the book. So there's your little trivia fun fact for you listeners. The Sunday edition of the New York Ghost. Oh, there you go. There's finally another name for a publication in the wizarding world besides the Daily Prophet. But the New York Ghost, published on November 28th, 1926, had an article about regulators examining the use of this charm for home improvement. There's a few more things, but kind of a bit of a spoiler, so I'm going to leave it be for there. And listeners, that's all we have for Golden Snitches. And so we're about to move on to our final section, our restricted section, or our graveyard for book 4. All right. I know I'm very clever, listeners. It's a shame because I didn't have that clever of a name for this one. Like in book 1, it was the third floor corridor. All right.
I think that works. Yeah.
Off limits. Then you had in book 2, the Chamber of Secrets. And then in book 3, it was the Prison of Azkaban. All right. That's pretty off limits. But I didn't really have one for book 4. I think the only other one could have been the prefect's bathroom because you got to have a password to get into there.
I think graveyard works.
Yeah, graveyard works just fine. But listeners, before you get on out of here, for anybody who doesn't want to hear spoilers, we want to say thank you so much for listening this week. Looking forward to next week when we cover chapters 5 and 6 with Professor Julian from the Critical Magic Theory podcast. He's been on MuggleCast a bunch, and was kind enough to come on for next week's episode. Really looking forward to that. Stephanie, this guy is a professor for his class. He teaches Harry Potter. Like that's what he does. He's living the dream. He's
How
living
can
the
I get
dream.
that job?
But anyway, thank you so much for listening. Stephanie, can you remind those listeners where they can find you again?
Stephanie's Pensies on Instagram or TikTok.
Very good. So listeners, again, that'll be in the show notes. Check that out. But now get on out of here. All right. If your name did not come out of the Goblet of Fire, you cannot enter into this restricted section. All right. Spoilers ahead. Be warned. All right. I make all that pomp and show. I had to like scrape the bottom of the barrel for restricted section stuff for these two chapters.
Yeah.
There wasn't much. Even
No,
in fact, I had been thinking about it all day, and it wasn't until I was sitting at my desk, just waiting for our meeting that I was like, I got to come up with something. So I just scribbled these down, but this is what I have. So first, the diet does work for Dudley. All right. That's a bit of a spoiler, but because in book 5, he comes back from school as the boxing champion. So
yeah.
seems diet and exercise paid off for him. All right. And then the other one I had was, so whenever we joked around about Harry saying like, it's hard for him to worry about anything, not even Lord Voldemort. Well, we do know it's not Voldemort who messes up the tournament, but it is Voldemort's followers who show up and screw things up for everybody. So Harry, you should be constantly vigilant. That is something in this book. You know?
That's actually what I wrote down as the foreshadowing.
Constant vigilance?
No, the part about Harry saying that he doesn't feel worried about anything.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, that plot twist.
I feel like in any book, when somebody says, I couldn't worry about anything, not even blank, whatever blank is a signal to the
Very
reader
worried.
that's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
My final one, talking about how the Dursleys, they have such a rough time when they get wizarding guests because, you know, they had Hagrid first. Now with Arthur and the other Weasleys, not only that, but then the next guest is going to be Dumbledore in book 6. And he also like with every single guest, they try to teach them manners. Cause you know, Hagrid is like, you should have been honest this whole time. Here we saw Arthur saying, you're not even gonna say goodbye. And then when Dumbledore shows up, he just puts him through the ringer of like, you should have been kinder. You've been awful to your own son. All right. Letting him run rampant all over you. So, and I always think of the glasses of tea or brandy, I'm not sure which, but that bump into their heads.
Oh, yeah.
Up.
Yep.
He also, when he conjures up the sofa and makes it like it knocks their knees out from behind them and they all get stuck on the couch. I think the only time they seem to have somewhat of a positive interaction with other wizards is in book 7 when Daedalus Diggle and I forget the other lady's name, but when they show up to pick up the Dursleys. And the reason it's positive for Uncle Vernon is because, well, he gets to be taken away from Harry forever. So, and something else to note in this chapter, Vernon asks Harry, what kind of car do they drive? Like, are they going to be driving? What kind of car? And Harry goes, I'm sure it wouldn't have mattered if he pulled up in a Ferrari, Uncle Vernon would still judge him. In book 7, Vernon does something similar, I believe, where he judges them based on their car when they first get there. But listeners, that's all I had for restricted section stuff. That's really all I got for this episode. Stephanie, did you have anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, listeners, we're all pottered out for today.
Never pottered out.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. So listeners, thank you so much for listening. Stephanie, thank you for being on this episode.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, it was absolutely lovely to get to meet you, to talk to you, and we look forward to having you guys back next week, listeners. So goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Retold. Artwork for this podcast was created by Rachel Ortlip. Music was created by Taylor Jarvis. And the Retold podcast is produced by me. That's right. I made this.